What's up, everybody? This is Trysta. Please subscribe to This League. Tap the bell, comment below, and give us a like. All right, so we were at game 1, game 2. Game 1 thoughts. Chris Paul is dominant.
Chris Paul's amazing. Yeah.
He's dominant. He wants to win more than I think the entire Milwaukee Bucks team want to win collectively. And I think it's because he's been shit on and told that either it was his injuries or him being toxic or his leadership style that makes him a difficult person to get along with. And we are seeing very clearly that no, that's not true. And Chris Paul just wants it a lot more.
Well, I think it's crazy that in an NBA playoffs, that's kind of been, a battle of attrition, that Chris Paul's team is the one that's here, reaping the benefits of it. He's really turned, all of this around, everything that people have said about him for years. This team loves him. So you can throw out the bad teammate stuff. It really was. I mean, Booker played great too. Ayton in game 1 was 22 and 19. Just a total team effort. This team just plays so well together, so cohesive. It's crazy. And now they've got to lose 4 out of 5 games to not be NBA champions. So I feel
CP3 32 4 and 9 in game 1, 4 for 4 from 3. And at one point, Chris Paul was hitting the front of the rim for game after getting COVID. So the world was wondering, is it legs? Is it chest? Is it lungs? Is it COVID? Is it age? Is it hamstring? Is it shoulder contusion? And it's like, no, Chris Paul is back. And I think truthfully, you see that this team is the best team constructed. It's not just an attrition thing to me. I think we saw some Bucks fans before game 1 and they were like, oh, the Phoenix Suns have had the easiest path. And I think that's fucking garbage. I think they've actually had maybe one of the hardest paths. Everybody has injuries. I mean, not talking about like in the course of history, but I'm talking about in terms of the pathway that they had to get to for a 2 seed was hard.
Yeah, no, okay. So when people are telling me that, I mean, here's what I say. Okay, Lakers, they were hurt all year. They were hobbled all year. That's why they were the 7th seed. The Suns' reward as the 2 seed is to play the 7th seed, and they were the 7th seed because they were hobbled. End of discussion on that one.
If they weren't hobbled, they would have been the 1 or the 2 seed.
Right.
And then the Suns would not have played them until maybe the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, so end of discussion on that one. And then when they want to talk about Denver and Jamal Murray being out, they played really awesome without Jamal Murray. That's why they hung on to the 3 seed.
Yeah, they had to play the 3 seed, who ends up beating Portland in 5, 6. And so it ends up being one of those scenarios where Denver was looking really good with Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
And the Suns straight smacked them. And that has nothing to do with Jamal Murray being out. They would have smacked them with Jamal Murray.
I think so. I think so. Obviously, there's no way to prove, but I think that one's kind of weak. Kawhi, I get, but at the same time, Chris Paul missed the first 2 games.
And the Suns won those games without Chris Paul.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, to me, and that was a very hard fought series as well. And took coaching just to get to this place. And Milwaukee, I would say, has had, if that fan in general wants to talk about like the path. I mean, what did you do? You played Miami Heat, who is in fucking shambles. Tyler Hero was on his Jack Harlow tour. Like Duncan Robinson regressed. Jay Crowder was gone. He's now a Phoenix Sun. Okay, so
Dragic was nothing.
Was nothing. Jimmy Butler was gassed. And it appears from a recent article that I just will talk about in terms of game 2 is that Jay Crowder was the only one really holding Jimmy Butler accountable. So Jay Crowder leaving changed the Miami Heat in a bunch of different ways too. So them like beating the Miami Heat was, I think, a different Miami Heat than they played the year before. Mm-hmm. Okay, then you play who? The Nets? And you play the Nets without Kyrie, without Harden for most of the series. And it was just KD having a ball out. And truthfully, the refs helped you win a couple games. and Giannis did undercut Kyrie and sprain his freaking ankle. Okay, that happened. That did happen. You don't win that series without the attrition there.
Yeah.
You don't win that series without the attrition there. You lose the Eastern Conference semis. Then in the Eastern Conference Finals, a ref takes out Trae Young. So if you want to talk about attrition,
I do forget about that.
Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks were up 10 when Trae Young went down with a bone bruise.
Yeah.
And then it was night-night. So the Milwaukee Bucks and the fans should not even be talking about this right now.
Yeah, it should not come from them. It can come from other people, like, fine. Like, and the biggest thing is, who cares? Who cares? There's going to be an NBA champion crown. And, like, let's go backward, like, a little bit. Okay, last year, bubble, kind of weird. Let's throw that out. Year before, KD gets hurt. Toronto wins. They don't win without that. The KD Warriors team stacked the deck. Asterisk. I mean, you could say a bunch of things.
Chris Paul goes down with a hamstring injury in the Western Conference Finals of 2018.
Sure, I just think
Houston doesn't beat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just think it's silly, and people want to discredit things whenever they get a chance, and I just don't think it's that smart of a thing that people say.
I want to talk about Chris Paul for just a second.
Okay.
I think that this Chris Paul will go down, and I said this on Twitter, will go down as I said that, top 5 point guard of all time. However, I think he might actually go down as a top 3 point guard.
Top 3
point guard of all time.
Well, who's he jumping? He's jumping.
So I think it goes Magic.
Steph.
I think it goes Magic. And then maybe Chris Paul over Steph. It's
really
tight. But you could say for argument's sake, it's Steph at 2 and then Chris Paul at 3.
Chris Paul at 3 over
Zeke.
Like Zeke,
over
Oscar, Stockton.
Over Nash. And
I think those 3 are pretty close, to be perfectly honest. I think Chris Paul, Stockton, and Oscar are pretty close.
And I think if people want to say Isaiah, so I've done some things. Chris Paul defensively is a much better guard than Isaiah Thomas. He made the all-defensive team 7 straight times. Isaiah Thomas was never that guy.
No.
He was never that guy. I don't think Isaiah Thomas ever made the all-defensive team.
I mean, they had Dumars there. They didn't really ask a lot of him on that side.
Still?
Yeah. No. I'm just saying they didn't ask a lot of him on that side. Yeah.
They didn't. And I think in terms of their stats, they were very, very close. I think like 19.1 versus 19.2. Like the numbers are irrelevant because they're that close.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah has more all-star appearances. I don't give a fuck. And I think you could say you put Chris Paul on that Detroit Pistons team, they get the exact same amount of rings. You put Zeke, I don't know that necessarily you can say that Chris Paul is immeasurably worse than Isaiah Thomas. And I would prefer a 2-way point guard. And people might bang me on this, but that is how I feel. What is your thought? And that is if he wins the chip.
Right. Obviously, this is assuming that Suns are able to close this one out. I mean, I think top 5 is a good place to be. I've never been a huge list guy. I think he belongs right there. If he's not 5, he's 6. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I just love him. I think he's going to go down as probably one of the best leaders to ever play the game. Mike Wilbon talked about this on NBA Countdown. The entire reason that the bubble existed at all was Chris Paul. I just think like there's no more complete point guard in the league in recent memory. And it's actually a shame that the world slandered him for that long. And I, at one point, was a part of that slander.
Myself included, very much. I hated him his entire career. It's honestly, it makes me kind of ashamed, and it's kind of changed how I look at different players throughout the league. Because, I bought into that, like, oh, he flops, he always argues, he's annoying. I mean, those Clipper teams were annoying. I would give myself a little bit of slack on that. They were super annoying. But, I mean, he's a basketball genius, and it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, and he's making everybody else better.
Yeah.
Let's talk about game 2. The Black family.
Yeah.
Playboy Marty, Playoff Marty's family came from Louisiana.
Shreveport,
Louisiana, to come to this game.
Mm-hmm.
They bought tickets. The fam, Marty's brother, works for the Suns. The whole thing was fucking storybook.
It was pretty crazy.
Papa Black, for folks who don't know, because no one really knows, OG Phoenix guy.
Yeah.
Moved there when he was 5 years old.
Yeah, in like 1961. And then the Suns had their expansion season in 1968. So he's been around for the whole ride.
The entire ride of the Phoenix Suns organization from start to now.
Yeah. Camped out in 1976 to buy finals tickets.
Just amazing. So, okay, the game's coming out to an end. And I would say Giannis, we could just throw this in there. Giannis played incredible. Played incredible. The refs, Tony brothers, wanted to give no fouls out except for to Giannis.
Yeah, no, they helped him out. They helped him out a little bit, but I mean, he still played.
Incredible.
Awesome. Yeah.
But the game's coming to a close.
Mm-hmm.
3 minutes left, I want to say. You're with me in section 203.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad is, where were you guys? Section 12,
230, I think, something like that, yeah.
Not far.
No.
He's posted up on the stairwell, and he's waving to Marty.
Yeah.
Waving. Marty's doing the PD Pablo with the orange Phoenix Suns towel that they give you. And there's like a moment shared. And I'm watching this moment. I look over, I check my phone, see if everything's going. And I look up, and Marty is emotional.
It was. So the Suns and my dad, and I'm just going to say, because I'm getting flamed a little bit online and on the Viva account. The Suns and my dad, it's a really special thing that we share, like more so than like really anything. And for a long time, I mean, we've experienced everything with the Suns except a championship, him included, since 1968. Suns have never won. It's never happened. And that's like our 1A team. And for a long time, it was, am I ever going to get to share something like that with my father? He's not the youngest man in the entire world. He's far from old, but you start having thoughts like that. And then all of a sudden we're going up 2-0. It like becomes obvious at that point we're going up 2-0. And like, it just hit me like I'm in the stadium. My dad's here. Like I never thought, especially this soon, that this would happen. And it just, it overcame me a little bit. And tears weren't like flowing down.
They weren't flowing. They were just shed.
They were
shed.
They
it was
were coming.
wispy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did your dad introduce you to the Suns when you were living in Louisiana? Okay,
so I like pretty much everyone born between 1990 and 1993 just loved Michael Jordan, and there was nothing anyone's father could do about it. Space Jam came out, so I was an MJ guy. I was a Bulls guy, which I'm sure post 93 like really did not make it that happy. And then in 1997, we took a trip out to Phoenix. My dad's parents were still living here, and we went to Suns Wolves. It was KG's like second year or something like that, and it was my first NBA game, first real like big sporting event. And the way he tells the story is that he like brought me and my brother there, and we like didn't ask to like get up to get food or go to the bathroom or anything the whole game. We were just locked in, and it just went there from that. I would have been 6, like first grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
And from then on, you were a Suns ride or die.
Yeah, I was hooked. Yeah.
Hooked. Brother, Suns ride or die. Father, obviously, Suns ride or die. So how did that Suns familial bond become the connective tissue for the family?
That's kind of hard. I don't know. We just loved it so much, and we had just, I don't know. That is so weird. Like it was just something that we always had to talk about and dream about, and like we've talked about it so many times. Like when like the final seconds are ticking down at the end of the finals, what that's going to feel like. It's just something we've talked about for so long, and we got so close, in the Nash years. I know we never made the finals, but at least 2 of those teams were right there and had a chance to actually, win it. And going through that much hurt, I guess, really makes it stronger, I would say, because you just want it that much more.
Yeah, and I think for you guys, it's the Suns were so bad, even with Book, even with Ayton, and you felt like you had pieces, good pieces, but you didn't make the playoffs for 11 straight years. And it's like, man, how is it for you guys to communicate when that team that you guys love are fucking terrible?
Yeah, I mean, we would still talk about it. We would still follow every game. And when we were tanking, we would still talk about like, oh, that was a really good loss we had. We really need to get that up, even though we only got a top 3 pick once, and that was Ayton. But yeah, no, it's just you keep faith in it. I don't really know exactly, how I can properly explain it. It's just so vindicating, this run. I mean, everything everyone ever said about Booker, good stats, bad team guy. He's not a winner. He will never have that, killer mentality. Ayton was fighting like a bust narrative like a year ago.
Chris
Like,
Paul fighting
yeah.
a wash narrative
Yeah.
and the narrative of being a bad leader.
Yeah. So,
And a bad teammate, overrated, all these things.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you never think going into this year, like, you never really think, oh, this team's going to win the finals. But it's so vindicating. It's so wonderful. And your blog was really awesome. Anyone listening to this should go read Trysta's blog. I really appreciated it.
You know, I didn't grow up with a dad that cared about sports at all. Like, my dad was an artist. He was a guitarist. He grew up in LA. And my mom was a huge Blazers fan. And so my mom introduced me to the team in a way where I was like 4 years old. And my mom and dad divorced when I was 6. And really, I don't have a relationship with my dad. And you know, you see, you know, my producer at USA Today, him and his dad became Nationals fans when the Nationals became an expansion team.
Okay.
And I was with them for the NLCS when they beat the Dodgers.
Oh, hell yeah.
To go to the World Series. And I captured them together on video. 3 of them, 2 brothers and the dad, all there crying.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like almost a flashback for it happening last night. It felt like the same thing, that moment where you kind of feel like we should not have been here.
Yeah.
The Nationals should not have been there. They were the worst team in baseball.
The year before, right?
The year before. And even in the middle of that season, they were very bad, right? They were like 30, I think they were like 0.02% possibility to win it all at one point. May 28th, the day of my birthday, we went and saw them play the Mets. And they were 0.02% probability to win it all. So I saw that, and it feels like, one, I get a piece of that familial emotion. Yeah. Because I've never had that. My mom only came to my games. I've never gone to do anything like that with my mom. My mom has severe anxiety, agoraphobia. Can't even comprehend crowds. She doesn't even travel on planes. I can't even comprehend a moment like that with my mom, let alone a moment like that with my dad. Right. And so to be there with people who feel that and have had that bond their entire life gets me emotional on so many different levels. And I'm so happy for you guys and happy for every family that has that with the Suns. And my grandmother actually was a Phoenix Suns fan. She lived here. Okay. She's a D-backs fan, and she was a Suns fan. And she's actually from Wisconsin. So it's so weird to see it all come in a weird circle. And all I can say is Sons of War, man. It's cool to watch. And you see the Jay Crowder game, which it was a Jay Crowder game. He had the best plus minus of any teammate on either the Bucks or the Suns.
He had a double.
Game 1 and game 2. He had the highest plus minus.
Yeah, and game 1 he went scoreless, right?
I think he might have
gotten one at the end,
like at the very end. Yeah. So I think he had 1 free throw, but Crowder is the reason. I think that there's a toughness to this team.
He's a big part of it.
There's a huge part of it. About that. Apparently, there's a new article that came out on ESPN today about how Chris Paul and Devin Booker called Jay Crowder together, FaceTimed him to say, we don't just want you on this team. We need you. We have guys that have no playoff experience, no championship caliber experience, and you were just in the finals last year, and the Suns gave him a long-term deal at $10 million a year when the Heat wouldn't, when the Mavs were flirting with him, with these other organizations possibly wanted him, and it was the Suns. And I think it's just a cool team. It's a cool story. And I think it I don't want to say feels like destiny, but it kind of does feel like that Nets run. Yeah, no,
it has vibes of that for sure. And like, honestly, just when you think about this team, someone had a great tweet. I hate that I don't remember who it was. I'll figure it out. Had a tweet that said, when I watch the Suns, it's like I'm watching a super team, but instead of 3 stars, it's just 3 guys who are just the best possible player at their position. Like, because I mean, and it really kind of makes sense because I mean, Chris Paul distributing, defensive minded point guard that can score at will also whenever he wants to, a shooting guard that can score even better. a defensive-minded center that plays like elite defense. The offense, comes to him naturally. He doesn't need to have plays run from him. And then you have two long-armed wings that are good at shooting threes. I mean, it's such a well-constructed team. James Jones just
and deep. It's a super deep team.
Yeah, but what was kind of weird and telling about game 2, Cam Payne only played 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So that really proved just how much, Monty wanted to get this game. And there's 3 days off. So that probably weighed into his decision too. I can play Chris and Devin a lot this game. But yeah, that was probably the most interesting thing to me, that Cam Payne didn't play that much.
I'd be remiss to not mention the fact that Trysta Krick, backup center, went down, and Dario Saric, backup center, tore his ACL. So I think that's going to be very, very interesting to see how things go on going forward. And also that's another reason that Jay Crowder is so important, is they need his toughness. They need his body and his size to maybe play some of that spot in a pinch hitter position.
Yeah. Potentially losing. I mean, we did lose. Suns did lose Dario. Torrey Craig, we don't know everything yet.
Didn't look good.
Yeah, no, it definitely didn't look good. I'm hoping it's a contusion, which I think would lead him to be able to play maybe later in the series if it goes. I mean, those two guys play huge roles off the bench. I think we're going to see a lot of Abdul Nader.
Yep.
And Filthy Frank the Tank Kaminsky is going to get some finals run.
Oh man, I tell you what.